Hey everyone. Today we need to talk about something that just happened in New York City. And the number you're about to hear is the one nobody wants you to see. Picture this: 1936. A young mayor stands in pouring rain, fighting a cold, breaking ground on what he calls an experiment. His name is Fiorello LaGuardia. The site: Park Avenue, East Harlem. The pitch: a city owned market to bring affordable food to working class New Yorkers. The New York Times wrote three words: City tries experiment. 90 years later, same spot, same Park Avenue, same promise. But this time the price tag is different. This time the price tag is $70 million. His name is Zohran Mamdani, 34 years old, mayor of New York City since January. On April 14th, 2026, he stood at that exact site and announced his version of the experiment. Now you might think, I don't live in New York. Stay with me, because what happens in this 9,000 square foot lot is the playbook a dozen American cities are watching to copy. Hit that subscribe button because this one goes deep. April 14th, 2026, Mayor Zohran Mamdani stood inside La Marqueta with Deputy Mayor Julie and the New York City Economic Development Corporation. He made it official: five city-owned grocery stores, one in every borough. $70 million in capital funds. The first store would be built from scratch on a vacant lot at 115th Street and Park Avenue, 9,000 square feet. Estimated cost $30 million for one store. Mamdani's promise was simple. The city would own the land, the city would cover overhead, a private operator would run the day-to-day, and because there would be no rent and no property taxes, the savings would be passed to customers in lower prices on the essentials. He quoted LaGuardia. He called it a grand experiment. He said, and I quote, "Just as LaGuardia used government to respond to the challenges of the Great Depression, we will use government to respond to rising prices." That was the announcement. Now stay with me, because the math is where this story gets ugly. Before we go further, you need to understand who Zohran Mamdani actually is. Born in Kampala, Uganda, the son of a Columbia University professor and an award-winning filmmaker. His family moved to New York when he was 7. He grew up in Morningside Heights, went to Bowdoin College in Maine, came back to Queens, spent years working as a foreclosure prevention counselor, helping immigrant families fight to keep their homes. In 2020, he ran for the New York State Assembly representing Astoria. He won. He served 3 terms. In 2025, he announced he was running for mayor. He beat former Governor Andrew Cuomo in the Democratic primary. He won the general election. On January 1st, 2026, at age 34, he became the 111th mayor of New York City, the youngest in over a century. His central campaign promise: affordability. Free buses, frozen rent on stabilized apartments, and city-owned grocery stores. Because this isn't some hedge fund manager flying in to flip a chain. This is a politician elected on a specific economic theory. And right now, that theory is being tested with $70 million of taxpayer money. Here is what the political class doesn't want you to hear. $30 million for one 9,000 square foot grocery store. That works out to roughly $3,300 per square foot. That is not a typo. Antonio Pena is the president of the National Supermarket Association. His group represents 450 independent supermarkets across New York City. He did the math out loud. He said building a grocery store in New York from the ground up should not cost more than $12 million. Retrofitting an existing space, under $4 million. Mamdani's plan is 2.5 to 7 times the industry standard for one store. And here is the second piece nobody is talking about. La Marqueta is not a food desert. There are roughly 45 grocery stores within a 35-minute walk of the site. Bodegas, independent supermarkets, chains. They pay rent, they pay property taxes, they pay payroll taxes. They operate on margins so thin a single bad month can shut them down. The city-run store will pay none of that. No rent, no property tax, a built-in price advantage no private business can match. Antonio Pina called it, these are his exact words, a big slap in the face. His 450 stores compete on a tilted field against a competitor whose losses are covered by the same taxpayers who are supposed to be saving money on groceries. Now step into the shoes of a bodega owner in East Harlem. You came from the Dominican Republic in 1998. You worked 16-hour days at a deli in the Bronx for 8 years. You saved every dollar. In 2006, you opened your own corner store on 116th Street. You pay $8,000 a month in rent. You pay your taxes. You pay your two employees $15 an hour. You pay for insurance, for permits, for refrigeration, for your supplier. You make a profit margin of 2% on a good month, and then one Sunday morning you turn on the news. The mayor of New York City has announced he is opening a city-owned grocery store 3 blocks from your storefront with no rent, no property taxes, $30 million in build-out, and a mandate to undercut your prices on every essential item you sell. You are competing with the city of New York, and the city of New York is being funded by the same taxes you pay every quarter. Now, here is the number nobody at City Hall wants you to see. $30 million for one 9,000 square foot grocery store. For comparison, Trader Joe's opens new stores in New York for roughly $5 to $7 million total. Whole Foods, with its premium fit out and organic supply chain, runs 10 to 15 million for a comparable footprint. The most expensive grocery build in recent New York history was a Wegmans in Brooklyn that came in at around $25 million for a 40,000 square foot store, more than 4 times the size of Mamdani's planned store, less than the cost of his planned store. Let that sink in. The city of New York is proposing to build a grocery store that costs more than a Wegmans 4 times its size. That is not a grocery store. That is a monument with shelves. And remember, $70 million is just the construction cost. That does not include operations. That does not include the price subsidies. That does not include the losses when the store has to mark down prices below cost to fulfill the political promise. The real bill is going to be much larger. And it gets worse. City Council Speaker Julie Menin has not committed to approving the plan. Her office released a statement saying the council will assess its potential impacts on consumers and local small businesses, including bodegas. Translation: the proposal is not approved yet. There is real internal resistance. John Catsimatidis, billionaire owner of the Gristedes and D'Agostino grocery chains, has publicly threatened to relocate his headquarters to Florida. He called the city-run grocery plan, quote, the breadlines of the old Soviet Union. Kansas City tried a city-run grocery store. It closed. Chicago tried to launch one. It stalled in committee. Atlanta opened one last year and is still figuring out whether it can sustain operations. 5 city-run grocery stores to serve a city of 8.5 million people. That is one store per 1.7 million residents. The math on impact alone, even before you get to the price tag, is brutal. What are the people in charge doing about it? They are doubling down. On May 18th, 2026, just 1 month after the La Marqueta announcement, Mamdani announced the second location, the Peninsula in Hunts Point in the Bronx. Same model, same financing, same gamble. And here is where both sides fail the regular family. On one side, you have a mayor proposing to spend $30 million on a single 9,000 square foot grocery store, while 45 grocery options already exist within walking distance. On the other side, you have private grocery chains that have raised prices 66% in New York City over the past decade, significantly faster than the national average of 46%. The corporate grocery industry created the affordability crisis with relentless price hikes. The political class is responding with a $70 million cure that may end up more expensive than the disease. The bodega owner pays the bill either way, and East Harlem is not alone. Chicago has been trying to launch a city-owned grocery program since 2020, stalled in committee. Atlanta opened one municipal market last year and is still measuring whether the price impact justifies the public spending. Kansas City opened its city-run grocery store, shut it down within 3 years. Los Angeles, Boston, Minneapolis, Philadelphia, all watching New York closely. The model is moving. The results are mixed at best. The price tags are exploding. So let's bring it full circle. In 1936, Fiorello LaGuardia stood in the rain at Park Avenue and called La Marqueta an experiment. At its peak, the market served 25,000 New Yorkers a day. Over the decades, it shrank. It now houses about 20 small businesses and 120 workers. In 2026, Zohran Mamdani stood at the same spot and called his plan a grand experiment. The difference? In 1936, the experiment gave pushcart vendors a roof and lower overhead. In 2026, The experiment puts the city of New York in direct competition with 450 independent supermarkets and over 13,000 bodegas that already serve those same neighborhoods. Here's the bottom line. The grocery affordability crisis in New York is real. A 66% price increase in 10 years is real. The question is whether $70 million in city-run grocery stores is the answer, or whether it is a monument that the bodega owner on 116th Street ends up paying for. So I want to hear from you in the comments. Should government run grocery stores to compete with private business? Or should that $70 million go to subsidizing the bodegas and independent supermarkets that already exist? Drop your thoughts below. Hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss the next breakdown. Stay informed, stay engaged, and never stop asking who really pays the bills.